at 3,500 feet, when we do steep turns, we want to keep our head outside the airplane, so we're going to pick something that's outside the airplane as a reference point. That looks like the casino to me, so that's Foxwoods, something prominent out there that we don't have to try too hard to look at. For integrated flight instruction's sake, we'll call it 130. We'll go ahead and set a heading bug there just to help our reference. It's a nice bumpy day. So we're going to roll around with a little bit of aileron first, rudder to help keep it turn coordinated, coming around right and left. A little bit of power and trim to help us. If we notice that we're losing altitude, where are we at? Oh, cruise checklist. Yeah, we didn't do that. 2000, just lean, well maneuver, so we'll keep it rich. External lighting, strobes are already on, so we're good. Cruise check complete. If we see that we're losing altitude, we're not going to pull back because remember, increasing bank increases our load factor, increases our stall speed. So we're going to take some of that bank out, which will reduce some of the load factor, help us not lose so much altitude. Take out a little bit of that drag, and we'll correct accordingly going around. So even with the bumps here, we've got about 35, maybe 35.50. We're heading roughly 130. We've got the casino out there. So I'm going to start. I raise the wingtip first, make sure we're clear traffic. And we actually do have somebody out there, so we'll delay a minute. This is why we check. Alright, he's up high. I'm trying to see where he's going. Alright, so he's away from us, no real factor there. So we've got the casino in front of us, that's what we're using as our reference point. So go ahead, we'll lift up the wingtip one more time just to make sure we are in fact clear.
Brandon Tower, 3 mile right base.
The bank coming over there, there's 45, 50. Start pulling back a little bit.
Clear to land. Runway 2, 113 Papa Fox.
Now we want to look at the horizon, we want to look at where the nose is going, so I can tell I'm climbing a little bit, so I'll just reduce some of that back pressure that I have in, because it might have been a little bit too aggressive. We keep it coming around, coming around, coming around. We're keeping our eyes outside, we're moving around pretty quick, so we want to keep our eyes ahead of the airplane, not in front of us, so we can see anything else in front of us. If we were to notice an airplane in front of us, we would stop the turn. Now I notice that I'm coming up on our waypoint here of the casino, so I'll start to roll out and I lead that by a little bit. I'm looking out for traffic, and we're going to roll right into the other one. I notice kind of the look of the picture out there on the horizon, and we're kind of slicing it at a 45-degree angle. Now we can back that up by looking inside here. VSI shows a little bit of a climb, so I'll just reduce some of the back pressure I have in there. I'm looking out in front of the airplane again to look for traffic to see if I see anybody. We don't. And I notice that my rollout point's coming, so I'll lead that by just a little bit. I'll take out some of that back pressure I held in to help me from climbing or losing altitude during the turn. And we rolled out back right on our heading that we started on, 100 feet. So I think that's commercial standards. Thank you, God. Those are steep turns. You want to do a couple?
Sure.
All right, sir. You have the airplane?
I have the airplane. You want to treat me as a student?
Sure. All right, student. Instructor told, instructor did. Now you do, and you tell, you pair it back to me.
All right, we're going to do one to the right. We're going to raise the wing, look over for traffic.
Cool.
A little bit of back pressure.
There we go.
5.
We're keeping our eyes outside. We notice that kind of 45-degree slice on the horizon. We're looking out the window. We're looking for airplanes out in front of us or anything that's going to smack into us and hit us. So if we notice we're losing a little bit of altitude,
A little bit of back pressure. There we go.
There we go. Good. We're coming around. We're coming around. Coming around. Alright, so we notice our waypoints start to come up, so we start to lead out our turn a little bit. And then we're looking out the left window to see if we see any other airplanes. And we'll roll
traffic, and we'll roll to the left.
Awesome. Steep turns from the right seat, and this airplane looks completely different.
It's
than
weird
it does from
from
the
this seat
Aero.
also.
It's really weird.
Really?
Yeah. Looks like we're diving towards the ground, which is one of the written test questions.
A little bit of overmark back pressure. There we go. Good, good. There comes our point.
Excellent.
And roll out wings level. Not bad. There you go. You're a good teacher.
Good job, sir.
Yeah. You have the flight controls?
I have the flight controls. Alright. So now we're going to go and do some slow flight. We do slow flight, same idea. Slowing down 1500. We'll wait until we're in the white arc. So we're below 110. We can kick in 1 notch flaps. We're going to be mindful for that pitch up. We're ready for that by just adding a little bit of down pressure. There we go. We're in the white arcs. Now we're adding all the flaps. And we'll say 3,700 feet. Roughly this heading. Again, we're using outside reference. We notice as we slow down, we're going to need to bring in a little bit of power. Because remember, we're making up for all that drag that we've got out on the airplane.
Affirmative, taxi midfield district.
We want to maintain our altitude, so we'll go ahead and just kick in as much power as we need. We probably need a little more than we think we do. Keep us from losing altitude. We're going to be about 2,000, somewhere in there. We're keeping our point out there on the horizon. We're also looking around for other airplanes while we're doing this.
Bit of a tailwind too.
Yeah, and also the thing to remember is the airspeed indicator here isn't so accurate because we're not getting that direct ram air pressure, so we want to focus on the pitch attitude of the airplane and not so much the airspeed that we're looking at in the cockpit. So I can feel that we're right about the edge of stall. We're at MCA, I get that mushy feel on the controls. We've got about 2,000 RPM there, so we've got a lot of power in. I'm having to use a lot of right rudder to counteract those left turning tendencies that we have. Now we're going to do some turns left and right. We're going to use standard rate turns. As remember, as we add turn, we have load factor. We're closer to our stall speed in this pitch attitude, so we want to just kind of really kind of goose it around very, very gently. And we'll go to south, and then we'll come back up. But notice that I'm gaining a little bit of altitude, so I take out some of that power. Maybe I've got a little more than I want to. We can take out power, and we can increase our pitch a little bit, kind of a mix of the two to get us where we want to go. There's south. That stall warning horn is what we want because it means we're right on the precipice of stalling. Ah, love it. Love it. Listen to that scream. Now we're coming back around to our point on the horizon there for the casino. We can just sit here all day. We're trimmed well.
Very good.
About 42 knots. Not getting any altitude, not much. Pretty easy. And then if you were my student, I would say, feel with me on the rudder how much rudder I have in here just to keep us going straight.
Okay. You got a lot of right
so
rudder.
You can tell we have a lot of rudder, we have a lot of power. So increased angle of attack, high power, lots of drag, slow airspeed. We're going to need a lot of right rudder to counteract those left turning tendencies. Now, we'll go ahead and just drop the nose down, and we'll transition into a stall. So again, we're using the same reference out the window. This time, we're going to bring the power back like we're in final approach. We're going to simulate that pitch at 65 knots, so the power is going to come all the way to idle like we were on final. So we're looking at it, I don't see any other traffic. So I'm pitching for 65, I'm going to trim for 65.
And now we're
going to simulate if we're trying to stretch that glide out, so we're trying to pull back like we're trying to make the runway when we don't have enough energy to get there. So notice that right rudder has to come in again, and again. We're going to feel that buffet, we can hear the horn, and there's the brake. All we have to do is just relax, we don't even have to do the power.
That was the best stall recovery I've ever seen.
Not so bad.
That was less than 100 feet.
That's good.
That was really good. Rare Tower, Cherokee 569er, mark me about 8 miles northwest, inbound with Sierra.
So, in order we take out the angle of attack, because remember, the stall is just exceeding that critical angle of attack. The minute we reduce, we're out of the stall range, the wings are flying again. We don't even have to worry about the power. And bring it back before. we're going to slow down again. We're going to simulate a power on stall. So when are we going to see this? We're taking off, we're distracted. Let's say we've got some buddies with us, and that pitch attitude just gets a little bit too high. Now we're going to see a much higher pitch attitude than we did in that power off stall, because again, we've got power on the airplane. We don't have a lot of drag in it, so we're able to kind of achieve a higher angle of attack. Of course, I find the bumpy places for this. Turn us back north a little bit so we don't get too far over here.
76 Mike, hold short. Wind traffic, Skyhawk. 8 miles west, inbound for left downwind, 27. Wyndham.
Put Wyndham on number 2,
oh, cool.
Just to have it.
To use the river out there is what's that?
Those winds are moving, my friend. We are not tracking.
They're kicking
Quickly off the ground.
That's why I don't want to get too far away from Hartford, because we got like a 59 knot freaking ground speed right now.
We should try to see if we can get it to go backwards.
I bet we could. We'll all do some slow flight going back.
Right.
Alright, so close enough to 70. We're going to look outside. We're kind of adding power as we go here so that we're not like inverted by the time we get to the stall attitude that we're looking for. That's enough on the power for this, just to simulate it.
Move up to hold short.
Might have to back off some power.
5 miles west, inbound for left downwind, 27, Wyndham.
Jesus.
Oh, the wind's coming out of the northwest, so.
Yeah. We'll just pretend it's all again, the same deal. Relax back pressure, wings are flying again, and we can, if we have any power left, apply it. Just help make up for that drag, and then off we go.
Is it okay that and can I make observations?
Yeah.
As far as the recovery, it's great. You seem a little bit relaxed about the whole recovery, and is that okay to be showing the student that, you're kind of gentle on the power, you're just kind of like relaxed back pressure, it's not a sudden...
Because what I don't want someone to do is this, I learned this from flying with that guy, Jim.
Okay.
Because Jim did this for stall recovery, let's just say that we're going to slow it up again. I'm just going to let it stall, just so we can kind of see it, if we can get it to stall. Let's call it the stall. He was doing this. If you're like nose down, he was doing something like that. And like we were almost hitting 0G every time. So all I said to him was, look, if we're up here, I'll get us to go again. Sorry, didn't mean to throw that off there.
No. Let me reach across you.
If we're up here, I like to do the falling leaf style with people to show them. That's it. We're flying again, And I can prove it to them. I'll say, well, let's say we induce that stall again for a secondary stall as you start pulling back.
Roger, traffic off the departure line is going proceeding eastbound. Proceed on course.
I didn't touch the power.
569 Foxtrot Lima.
The wing's not stalled. We didn't need to push down. It was just nice, gentle, just relax. Let go, think happy thoughts, as Terry likes to say.
Talk through it.
So our goal with landing is to kind of run out of energy and lift when we run out of altitude. And we kind of do that by changing altitude and speed with power interchangeably to kind of help get us down here and slow down at the same time. So we're about under 10 knots right now. We're about at the upper limit of the flap operating speed, which is about 5 miles from the airport to where we want to be. Descending down to pattern altitude, our goal to be at pattern altitude before we get to the pattern. We don't want to be descending into the pattern, we want to be at level with the traffic pattern altitude, and we do that so that when we look out on the horizon, we can see other airplanes that are going to be in the pattern with us. So the controller's at 2 miles, so we're kind of setting ourselves up for a 2 mile right base. We have the airport in sight, but we're also using visuals to kind of help us on the ground to cheat a little bit. We know that bridge is about 3 miles away, so we're kind of shooting in the middle between there to get ourselves set up for a 2-mile right base. We're currently at 4 miles. Before we enter the pattern, we want to make sure that our checklists are done. We've already run the descent before landing checklist. We know that those are complete. We're spending the bulk of our time looking out the window, looking for other airplanes. So I'm at 1,300 feet out of 1,000. I'm coming up on just about 3.5 miles, so I'll make my call here in a minute to let the controller know what we want to do, which is going to be a touch and go to stay in the pattern. As I approach 1,000 feet, kind of pulling up here, I'm going to just take out some of that power so we slow up just a little bit more so we're inside flap operating range right when we want to be. Coming up on 2 miles, go ahead and give them a call. Center Tower, 6 Echo Sierra, 2-mile right base, runway 2, touch and go, close traffic.
6 Echo Sierra, runway 2, clear touch and go, wind 340 at 10, gusting 18, make right close traffic.
Clear touch and go, runway 2, right close traffic, 6 Echo Sierra. Alright, so we're inside flap operating range, we're at 1,000 feet, we're going to kick in the first 10 degrees of flaps. We're always going to get that little pitch up change, so we kind of anticipate with that with a little bit of nose down pressure. This is an important time in terms of collision avoidance. We want to be looking for other airplanes, so we're looking at the final approach path to make sure that it is clear, the opposing base to make sure that it's clear, and the runways we approach to make sure that no one's taking off into us. We want to continue more of a descent here, so now we've got the power back at 1,500 RPM. Again, we're spending most of our time looking outside the window, looking for other airplanes. Planning for the landing itself, we know that we were told by the controller that we have a northwest wind. It's a little gusty, 10 up to 18 knots, so it's a little bit of wind to play with. That's just kind of what they say, so you kind of want to go by more what you feel in your hands, and you'll feel when we're getting pushed, and try to explain what that feels like while we're doing it. Again, the goal to run out of energy and lift when we run out of altitude and hit the runway smoothly, so we're going to go ahead and add a little bit extra lift. Also adding a little extra drag, we can help us see it slow down there. And we know that when we add flaps, it allows us to we can see the pitch attitude decreasing, but our airspeed isn't increasing, which is exactly what we want to have happen. About 500 to 600 feet here in a base turn to final, that's where we want to be. So we're checking the traffic one more time just to make sure that we are in fact clear, the runway is clear. I'm looking all the way down the runway to make sure I don't see someone at the other end of the airport that may have an idea of taking the wrong runway at the wrong time. Not such a concern at a towered airport, but definitely a concern at an uncontrolled airport. Okay, so here's final approach. Riding in our full flaps now. We have the runway assured, so we're just, slowly reducing the powered idle, maybe not so slowly. And a little bit of trim. You can see we're kind of sinking a little bit low there with the wind, so I'm going to go ahead and kick in a little bit of power there just to keep us coming down. The nose is coming down. How do we know where we want to land when we come in? So we kind of talked about the spot that doesn't move method, so I'm keeping that runway number right in my line of sight. And my goal is to have it stay kind of frozen there, so if I notice it's starting to sink, add a little bit of power and have us come back in. And now we have the runway assured, so we're going to go ahead and just pull that powered idle. I'm keeping that spot that doesn't move as I start to see the runway flatten out. I adjust my vision to look out, down towards the end of the runway. I'm keeping us lined up here straight with the center line. And we're down. The flaps are going to come up. There's full power, track the center line with the rudder pedals. Looking for 60 knots, there it is. And up we go. I'll just do this one as a short approach. The limits of my bladder. Alright, so here we are in the climb out, coming through 600 feet. We want to make our turn 300 feet below the traffic pattern altitude if we intend to stay in the pattern. Tracking the runway center line with the winds, that's why we're kind of pointed here to the left a little bit so that our ground track stays in the extended center line of the runway, which is our goal. We'll start our turn. So we're reducing power and just kind of letting the nose drop a little bit there so that we stay at our 1,000 feet. The bulk of the time, my eyes are outside the airplane. We're looking for traffic. We're going to have a tailwind here, so we kind of notice that things are going to be happening a little bit faster. We can see our ground speed increasing. This time we're going to do a short approach. So we're going to pull the engine and simulate a landing with no engine power.
Radar towers back, 6 Echo Sierra, Raymond Field downwind for full stop, short approach, please.
6 Echo Sierra, runway 2, clear to land, short approach approved.
Land runway 2, 6 Echo Sierra.
Alright, so our beam point here, we're just going to pull the engine all the way out to idle.
Start 2, burn down.
Too far for hospital.
Oh no, our engine quit. So what are we going to do? We're going to pitch for that 65 knots. Yes, scream, cry.
Southeast of Brad, altimeter 3034. Currently the wind is 34010, gusting 18.
30.
And we're going to start turning because we can always lose altitude, but once it's gone, we cannot get it back, and we don't want to be far away from the airport when that happens. So we're starting to turn. Also, we have a super strong headwind coming from this direction. So we're doing a little bit of a forward slip to help pitch some of this altitude. There we go, 500 feet is where we want to be, 70 knots, a little fast, that's okay. And we're kind of coming right into the wind, so that's going to help us out a little bit here. That was a power off and a short field, I guess, together.
6 Echo Sierra,
Thank you for the winds.
back to the runway or back to the ramp?
Back to the ramp for 6 Echo Sierra.
6 Echo Sierra, continue down the runway, make a left at Charlie, and continue your taxi via crossing Alpha. I've got traffic southbound on Alpha, we'll get you ahead of them.
Okay, left at Charlie, right on Alpha, to the ramp with you, 6 Echo Sierra.
Right on Alpha, I want you to cross Alpha, make a right on Juliet.
Okay, cross Alpha, right, Juliet, 6 Echo Sierra.
Okay, clear left, clear center, right.
You are all right, my friend.